pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. Okay. Can I get a motion to consider and act upon the minutes of March 6th, 2023 and April 17th, 2023? Motion to approve?
So moved. I think Nancy's on there.
I'm here. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to catch up on, I just see that we got revised agenda backup, so I'm just trying to sort through.
Madam First Selectwoman, can I?
Go ahead.
Nancy, you had some questions, as I recall, in one of the minutes. I just want to make sure you're comfortable with those.
I'm frankly, I was sick all weekend, so that's why I may have to abstain because I have to look. Thank you for asking the question. I'm trying to pull it up right now.
Sorry you're ill.
Is there any way we can move on to the next item just so I can have a chance to catch up for 3 minutes?
Sure.
Can I have a motion to move that item? May I make a motion to move the minutes to the next regularly scheduled meeting?
Sure.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Do you want to second it?
Yeah, I'll second it. Sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, Nancy. How are you?
See. All right, now we're in business. Item number 4. Can I get a motion to hear and consider and approve the charge of the AC Building Committee?
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
Okay. Angeles, do you want to just talk about the charge briefly?
So this is the charge for the Phase 1 air conditioning project for the schools. This is North Stratfield, Osborne, and Fairfield Woods. As I'm sure you're all aware, we received some federal funding, or state funding for these projects, so we have to start moving quickly on them to meet deadlines. So that's why it's before you today.
Thank you. Is there any questions from the board?
So is this,
I just,
go ahead, Nancy.
sorry, I was just going to ask if Angelos was familiar with this particular, I'm happy to support because I understand this project absolutely needs a building committee. Were you made aware of the members before? Otherwise, I'm just going to have to abstain. Did you have any part in this?
Absolutely. We work very closely with the First Selectwoman's office.
Actually, I had asked them to choose the members because it's their project, and I thought their recommendations would be more helpful, so these are the members that they put forward.
We made the recommendation to the First Selectwoman's office.
It has my support.
Quick, here, is this building committee only for these 3 projects, or is it for all the AC projects?
So we wrote it as the Phase 1 with the hopes that we could possibly down the road, once funding becomes available, we may be able to move it into a further phases of the project.
Okay, so I don't see that in the... Sorry. I'm not usually told I have to use my outside voice. So I don't see
Phase
that
1
actually
is
in the-
what we didn't want to slow down the project for Phase 1 because of the tight deadlines we have, so we wrote the charge as for Phase 1 of this project. We will come back before you for the further phases.
Okay, with perhaps the same or separate building committees?
Correct.
And quick question, why only 3 people?
Our intent was to keep the group small and able, we had a couple criteria we look for. A small working group that could move quickly through the project as things come up, and also we spoke with people that were able and willing to be available for daytime meetings to keep the project moving. As I mentioned, the state reimbursement that we received for this project has a completion date of December of the year 2024, so it is going to be a quick moving project.
And Who's the superintendent picked to be their representative on it?
That would be Sal Morabito.
Okay. So, and these three schools are the three that are on here?
North Stratfield, Osborne, and Fairfield Woods.
North Stratfield, Osborne, and Fairfield Woods.
And they were laid out in our waterfall as Phase 1.
Madam First Selectwoman, I have a motion to amend the committee charge to just specifically state in the bottom of the first paragraph, Board of Selectmen is establishing the AC Building Committee for Phase 1 of the school air conditioning projects to include North Stratfield, Osborne Hill, and Fairfield Woods School. And I would make a motion that that be added to the committee charge.
You have any problem with that, Angelos?
I do not.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Any discussion on this?
And, yeah, what was, Angelos, your response to the first Selectwoman?
We have no problem with that ad.
Okay.
Is there any discussion
the-
from the body, additional discussion from the body?
The Board of Ed, I understand also, and I see Ms. Jacobson on the line, the Board of Ed has a representative as well. Is that true? On the building committee?
Yeah, that's Sal Morabito. I had asked that. It's,
Oh,
yeah.
sorry. And
Oh.
separate
The Board of Ed is
Board
a
of Ed,
separate.
too.
Yes.
And who's that?
Ms. Jacobson can answer that. I think I know, but I don't want to speak.
I'm going to open it up then. Jen, go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Yes, so we typically do always have a BOE liaison to the building committee as well, and Mr. Nick Asa has requested to be that liaison.
Wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Nothing further.
Is there any is there any discussion from the public on this item? As amended? Coming back?
I think we have to vote on the amendment, right?
You amended it.
Yeah. So I think we have to vote on the amendment.
Okay, all in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
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 The item as amended, is there any discussion from the body or the public on the amended item?
Nothing from me.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. The next item, can I get a motion to approve, to hear and consider and act upon the following appointments to the building committee? David Becker, which will run till, which will start May 2023 to completion. Jason Lee, who's been a longtime member of many building committees and has done a very good job, from May 23 to completion. And Rodney Van Dusen, from May 23 to completion. Motion to approve.
So moved.
And I'll second it.
Okay, is there any discussion from the body?
I'd like to thank all these gentlemen for their willingness to serve on this committee and to work during the days to get this done. I happen to know at least 2 out of the 3 very well, and I have no reservations about appointing them to the committee whatsoever.
Just thanks, and I was happy to hear that Angelos had worked closely to, and had made these recommendations, so for that reason, I'm happy to support completely. I'm happy to take it as one vote.
Okay. Is there any comment from the public on this item? Do any of the members who are appointed like to say anything at all? Mr. Lee is shaking his head. He's here in person. I see Mr. Becker is on the line. Mr. Becker, would you like to make any comments?
Always glad to serve.
Thank you. And I'm not sure if Rodney's on. Oh, it's Rodney, sorry. Rodney, would you like to share any comment?
I'll echo Mr. Becker. Always glad to serve.
Okay, thank you. Well, I just want to thank all 3 of you for stepping up. Obviously, these are one of those committees that's a sort of thankless job. It goes sort of under the radar, but it is important. And I appreciate all 3 of you stepping up to serve. And if there's no further comment, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries. Good to see you, Jason. Good to see you, Rodney. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next item, can I get a motion to hear and consider and authorize the purchasing authority to enter into a proposed service agreement with Southport Contracting to provide all labor, materials, equipment?
You gotta go for the upgrades. Item number,
Item number 6.
Yeah.
oh, I'm sorry, excuse me, I'm so sorry.
Agreement with Southport Contracting to provide all labor, materials, equipment, and all necessary, everything else necessary to perform the boiler replacement at Burr Elementary School as detailed is in bid 2023-122 in the amount not to exceed $590,000 with additional authority to execute change orders to said contract in the amount not to exceed $59,000 for a combined grand total amount not to exceed $649,000. And then the account number is listed on the agenda, and the boiler burner replacement for Burr. Motion to approve.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Okay, Angela, do you want to briefly discuss this? Or Adam? Is Adam on? Yeah. Adam, do you want to just briefly talk about this? This is standard stuff.
Yes, I'm here. Yep, so we went out to bid for this project. We received 4 responses on March 28th. Southport was the low bidder. After vetting it out, we decided to go with them, including an add alternate, which is what brings the total up to $590,000. Angeles can speak more directly to the project. Any issues beyond that?
As you all know, this was, the Burr boiler replacement was part of our capital request and on our waterfall for replacement this summer. So we're moving forwards with this project as funded.
Very good. Go ahead, Tom.
Couple questions. Number one, is this within the budget that had been scoped out for
It
this?
is.
Okay. Number two, have we used Southport Contracting before?
We have. They did the Mill Hill boiler
Okay.
just recently.
And obviously satisfied with that workload?
Absolutely.
All the insurance was checked and in place? And the contract went through, is the town attorney on?
Everything was sent to the attorney. I'm not sure if Jim is on the call, if he's had a chance to review it yet, but I used our standard contract document.
So,
This is Town Attorney Jim Baldwin. Yes, I have reviewed those standard contracts, which were shared with me for this item, as well as the following 6 or 7 maybe, or whatever the number is, a large number. And they are all standard, and they meet with my approval and satisfaction.
great. And real quick question just on this item. Was this boiler replaced previously as well?
The Burr boilers, no, they have not. They're original to the building.
Okay. All right. I've got nothing further.
You good, Nancy?
Yes, I'm good.
Okay. Is there any comment from the public on this item? Seeing none, back to the board. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Aye.
Thank you. Item number 7, to hear and consider and authorize the purchasing authority to enter into a proposed service agreement with BL Companies Connecticut to provide all labor, materials, equipment, and all else necessary to perform architectural engineering design services for Phase 1 HVAC upgrades at Osborne Elementary School and North Stratfield Elementary School and Fairfield Woods Elementary School. Middle School, as detailed in the RFQ 2023-83 in the amount not to exceed $898,420, and with the authority to execute change orders to said contract in the amount not to exceed $89,842 for a combined grand total not to exceed $988,262. And the account number is listed on the agenda, and this is part of the Phase 1 of the AC of the schools. Motion to approve?
second it.
Okay. And this is part of what we were discussing earlier, and it's the same contract stuff that we always use, and it's for the committee that we were just talking about.
So I have a question for a couple of these.
I did, oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Nancy?
Is it, yeah, it's, just remind me, is it, the way it's written here, is it consistent with past language to give authority to execute change orders with this large of an amount without having to come back for approval? Or is this a change in how it's written?
I'm not sure what she's asking.
Yeah, I know what she's asking.
This is Jim Baldwin again, town attorney. That is language which is consistently used in our agreements and our agenda items.
And is this high amount, which is that typical?
That's something for discussion among the board members and those who are presenting this item. So that's.
Yeah, okay, so.
I can't speak to
Not
that.
typical.
Can I have a follow-up on that, on exactly what Nancy's asking? I was surprised, there's two things about this that surprised me. I was surprised to see a change order amount, given that these are just architectural and engineering drawings. Why would we need change order / contingency on drawings versus on, when you get in there, I understand what happens, but why here?
So I don't know if Adam has anything to add first. His
Yeah,
department
I'll
wrote
just
it.
say,
Yeah.
I'm going to use my wild card here as the new guy and just say I was using the language I've been using for most of the resolution so far. If this is wrong, I apologize. Happy to change it.
Yeah, no, I'm not even saying it's wrong. I just don't know that you need it for drawings versus actual work. I understand that conditions can be different, once you get on site and start doing the work, but I would imagine that for architectural and engineering drawings, the price is the price.
Architectural engineering, the price is the price, but as you know, you never know when we start looking in deeper and opening up walls and seeing what's behind the curtain. There should be room for changes or increase in cost if need be. The amount there was kept it within our estimated budget for design work.
How much was the budget?
I'd have to look. I don't have it with me. I
Yeah,
have to get it
can
to
you look?
I have to get it to you. I don't have it with me. Thank you.
It just seems like an awful large contingent to, I don't know, Nancy, if that was your point as well.
Yeah, and also, it just, yes, in part.
We'd be happy to reduce and then come back if need be.
But
Yeah.
reducing it, I mean, if it's in contingency, if it's not used, it goes back to the
Goes back.
town.
Yeah, but it also, we've had experience before, deference to yourself, where the contingencies get used up on other items, right, because they've been approved.
Well, they have to go through the purchasing, each piece. The building committee has to review it, they will review it, and it also has to go through purchasing each piece regardless.
No, but what ends up happening is they transfer it within the project. They say, we've got this much of the project, and then they turn around and say, well, we'd like to do this, and they transfer the funds over there once it's already been approved.
Understood.
It just takes away a layer of check and balance is the way I'm reading it, but maybe I'm not reading it correctly.
Well, I think we just put a building committee in place with people on it, and we're not going to give them the authority to do the work, sort of micromanaging them from outside of the table.
Do you have anything,
I mean, I see that point.
do you have anything else to add, Angelus, on this item?
No, like I said, like you have all said, we've established a building committee pending RTM approval, and we want them to be able to move as quickly and proficiency as possible to get this project rolling and underway.
I guess, so I would wonder philosophically, I understand we don't want to micromanage along the way, but is adding approval and making it a little less sweeping, and I'm just asking, I'm not sure where I stand on this. Is that an important check that we need in this process? You know, Tom, do you have a feeling about that?
I just think what's bothering me, Nancy, is the amount itself, $90,000 just on drawings. I would go for cutting that back and giving them, to Angela's point, the opportunity to have some sway there, but I don't know that you need $90,000 before coming back.
We'd be happy to entertain a lower number for starting.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. And I don't know if you would go for that, Nancy, or not.
I think if it doesn't hold things up,
Okay,
yes.
okay.
I think for $90,000, I mean, if we're talking about a difference of $20,000, I don't know that it makes so much sense to hold up a process, but if that's not the case, then yeah, I just think it seems
Why don't we put it at,
something we should pay attention to. But, you know, again, if it's going to hold it up, I don't know that that's where we should get stuck.
would you entertain just cutting this in half and leaving them with a 5% contingency?
Again, I
Be okay with that?
We'd be
support
comfortable with
but
that.
without, you know, wanting to make sure that it's not.
Angelo's just said he'd be comfortable with that, Nancy, if it gives you any comfort.
Sure, yeah.
I think that's a reasonable number, and to Tom's point and Nancy's point, you know, I think anything larger than that, we would probably want to make sure, you know, the appropriate bodies are looking at. So, again, this was just sort of, I don't want to say oversight, but, you know, I was just kind of relying on non-drawing resolutions I've put together so far.
Adam, there's no problem with that. I don't think anybody tried to do anything wrong here whatsoever.
Yes, and that, by bringing up the question wasn't a suggestion of nefarious intent. It was really just a question of, you know, looking and saying, hey, could we, you know, switch that a little? And if Angelos, you're saying no problem, and Adam, no problem, then great, no problem.
So do you want to make a motion to amend this?
I'll do.
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion that we change the number 89,842 in this to not exceed $45,000, which is just about half the amount. And that changes the total amount from 898,420. It's high-level math. I can't do it in my head. 842.
45,842, or 44,849.
45. I get 853, 578 is the total. So the number becomes 45,000, not to exceed $45,000, which is the change order amount. And then the 898,420 becomes 853,578.
Okay,
Second.
you're making that amendment?
Yep.
You're seconding it, Nancy?
Yes.
Is there any discussion from the public on this amendment? Back to the board, all in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Aye. We go back to the item as amended. Is there any additional discussion as the item as amended?
I do have one question, because I just noticed it. Actually noticed it on the last one, I forgot to ask. Where on the document it says first select woman, it's actually, who signed that? Is that Tom Bremer?
I don't know where you're.
It's on this page where it says first select woman. And I'm assuming it just got, I'm not trying to make a case out of it. It's just, Mr. Baldwin, is there any implications of that can be held against us or what have you later on?
And Jim Baldwin here. I confess I'm not looking at the document that you're referring to. Is it in the bid documents, or is it?
It's under the,
The fact of the matter is that
yeah, it's under the request for qualifications. So I would, and it's on,
so.
go ahead.
The first select woman is the purchasing agent for the town and can delegate
Designate.
her authority to the chief administrative officer. So I don't have any issue with that.
Okay, I just wanted to call it out because I wasn't sure. Thank you.
You're welcome.
If there's no additional comments on the item as amended, all in favor? Oh,
Aye.
do you have a comment, Jen?
Oh,
I'm
sorry.
sorry.
Sorry, I wanted to speak before the amendment was voted on, but I just wanted to confirm with Angeles that any documentation that went to the state granting authorities pertaining to the contingency requirement wouldn't conflict with the amendment or as the motion is now presented to us as amended, and also to the bidder, just to ensure that we weren't required to put in some sort of a certain specific amount of contingency in here.
So the state paperwork was for the full project amount, including construction, so I believe we are covered, but I will confirm that.
I did.
Yeah, so it's just an important question for this body to make sure that we're not
Thank
taking
you.
action here that would
You're right.
conflict with
Yep.
put forth for the reimbursement funds.
So that, again, that was for the total project amount was put forward.
Right.
You want to
And-
copy that
So
down?
your
No, I'll just do it
answer
right on
is
here.
fine.
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I couldn't hear you. Thank
sorry.
you.
My apologies, Nancy. It might have been or Jen.
Thank you, Jen, for that. So we're just going to modify it because Jared just pointed out that
Thanks.
Tom didn't have the right numbers. So we're going to read the proper number now?
Yeah, the proper number. Yeah. So I took the wrong number when I adjusted, and it was, instead of the 898 that I was adjusting in my motion, I should be adjusting the 988, and that number should become 943,420 in the agenda and that we're voting on. So it should be to not exceed a total number of 943,420. That's the correct adjustment. And then, of course, the change orders is $45,000. So thank you for pointing that out. Can I amend my amendment for that? Nancy, would you accept that?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Thanks.
Is there any additional discussion on that amendment? So now we have to vote on the amendment as amended.
Okay.
All in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
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 We're back to the main motion as amended. Is there any discussion from the public? Any discussion from the body? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries. Item number 8, to hear and consider and authorize the purchasing authority to enter into a proposed form of agreement with JLY Enterprises LLC to provide all labor, materials, equipment, and all else necessary to perform elevator replacement at Fairfield Ludlow High School as detailed in bid number 2023-102 in the amount not to exceed $298,800, with an additional authority to execute change orders to said contract in the amount not to exceed $29,880 for a combined grand total not to exceed $328,680. The account number is listed on the agenda. The elevator modernization, Fairfield Ludlow High School and Fairfield Public Schools, and the account number is also listed on the agenda, major maintenance projects. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Okay, I'll open it up to the board.
I assume this is within your budget for this item.
So this actually, just for our capital request, this did go over budget because we did add on to this project the replacement of the pin after meeting with contractors because of the age of the pin and the work we plan to do with the elevator. It didn't make sense to not take the pin as part of the project. So that's why you'll see a separate account number listed there for the major
Major
maintenance.
maintenance.
So we will cover that out of the operating budget for the Board of Ed.
How much is that?
I don't have the numbers in front of me. I apologize for that.
I think we said it was somewhere in the range of 50,000. Does that ring a bell, Angeles?
Yes, it does.
So you have to dip into, so what's not getting done? in the major maintenance if this is getting done?
It'll affect many different, small amounts from many different lines to come up with the total amount. Usually our first hit projects would be painting and paving. We did have a mild summer, so we did have some savings with snow removal this year. Mild winter, I apologize. So we did have some savings with snow removal, which would help with this as well.
How much was that savings, do you remember?
I do not, I apologize.
All right. Next time, can you make sure you know how much is coming from the operating budget,
I
please?
absolutely will.
All right. And this was part of the waterfall, and this was approved. Does this have to go back to the Board of Finance or anybody else? Likely not, because it's coming out of your operating budget, right?
That is my understanding.
Yeah, that's mine, too. Okay.
Nancy, do you have anything?
No, I don't.
Is there any comment from the public? Seeing none, back to the board. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Angelos.
Thanks much.
To hear and consider and authorize the purchasing authority to enter into a proposed service agreement with Champion Maintenance Construction to provide all labor, materials, equipment, and all as necessary to perform seasonal custodial services at the Town of Fairfield rest stations as detailed in bid 2023-132 in the amount not to exceed $75,387 for the 2023 season, plus additional services at 0.30% per square foot and 33 per hour as needed during the season. The account number is listed on the agenda. Public Works Contracted Property Services. Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Seconded.
Is there any questions from the body?
So did this go through the normal processes and all for approval?
Yes, we put out a bid. We received 2 responses on April 6th. And then we did a thorough review with James Ryan. I'm not sure if he's present.
John Cattell is.
Okay.
So this is seasonal custodian. How does this work? Where is this for?
So these are for the rest stations. John could definitely speak
Throughout the
more
town
clearly to
Hey,
it
John.
than me.
during the summer.
John Cattell, Assistant
Hey, John.
John Cattell, Assistant Director of Public Works. As stated, these are seasonal. We don't have, their bathrooms are closed during the winter months, otherwise they'd freeze up, so we do a winterization of them. So it's a seasonal, basically generally from April 15th to November 15th. The ones along the beaches are a little bit later because it's generally Memorial Day.
So what is the, I'm getting lost here. It says total for 7 days, and then it's total for weekends.
We put this out in 2 options as to whether we want to get someone to do just weekends only and do the other in-house with staff, or to put the whole thing out. And we felt it was more efficient, better to just put the whole thing out, that they do it to 7 days. So we're only really looking at the top portion of the costs.
Okay, and is this within the budget for this?
Yes, we can fund it. Out of operational.
Why does it have why does it say not to exceed 75,387? Isn't it not to exceed 59,883 or not to exceed 15,504? Or why would it be at 75, which looks to be the addition of both of them?
I think they probably put both of them, which I would say would probably be the lower of the 2. So it'd be 54, the higher of the 2.
59.
Yep.
Right. So I'd like to make a motion.
The other item on that, though, is it also accounts for special events. I don't know if they added all that up, but I don't see it being
Yeah.
20,000. When you have certain special events, that's why you have an hourly rate of $33 an hour, minimum 4 hours.
Exactly.
So what's the right number? I mean, because even if you do special events, it's not going to be 15,500 in special events, right? Because that looks like, this just looks like an error. But I understand what you're saying. I'm not trying to, you know.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. I just saw that too myself, so I was just trying to.
Yeah, so John, this is Adam from purchasing. So John, I believe what I did was I took the grand total for the 7 days and added the total for the weekends only. So sounds like what you're saying is I misunderstood the intent there.
That's what it appears, yeah.
Yep, so you can deduct the amount from the weekends, which was 16,900.
Actually, it's 15,504.
Correct.
So, but does the 59,883, does that leave you enough to do the specialty days that you were talking about?
Adam, what did you say you misunderstood?
They added these two.
Yeah, so I included the grand total of the 7 days a week service and the grand total of our weekends only. But I'm wondering if, is it, so if we subtract the weekends only, is it, I just don't know, normal procedure. Is it possible to just remove the not to exceed number and somehow indicate what the expected, the 59,000 expected for the 7 days a week, and then leave in the language about the hourly and square foot rate for special fees? Understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
sounds
just
like
to-
it makes sense.
Just
Like
adopt,
accounting for special circumstances.
yeah.
Yep.
And I'm fine with that, if that's going to work for you guys, but I'm not
That'll
fine
work.
with adding both. Okay.
Yep, I concur.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to make a motion to amend item number 9. So let's see if I get the math right this time, Jared. For where it says, in an amount not to exceed, right now it says 75,387, which is both of these numbers. I'm going to change that to say 59,883, which is the total for the 7 days, including Memorial Day and Labor Day. So the 75,387 becomes 59,883.
And you're removing the not to exceed.
I'll second it, but didn't we want to, per Adam's comment just now, leave some amount of contingency for special cases?
It says,
The language is like,
yeah, if you read it, my apologies, I didn't mean to cut you off, Nancy. It says in an amount not to exceed, and it would say 59,883 for the 2023 season, plus additional services at either 30 cents per square foot and $33 an hour for the season. So assuming you have the budget, this covers that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
right, but don't we want language not to exceed?
It says that.
Aren't we sort of-
It says that. It says that in an amount not to exceed 59,883, except for those special circumstances.
Oh, I got it.
Yeah.
Okay, yep.
Jared, are those numbers right, Jared?
Yes, they're in the contract.
I rarely make the same mistake twice.
Okay. So you just amended it?
I did.
Nancy, did you second?
Hey, Tom, this is Jim again.
Yep.
I think to Nancy's point, don't you want a
Yeah.
number not to exceed those
Yep.
those additional items?
Right, like slightly higher. That's,
I'm okay with the way it's written. If you guys want to do that, that's fine. What I wanted was the right number in there for 59.
Okay, if the board is satisfied with it, that's okay, because they can't spend outside their authorized budget anyway, so.
Well, that's my point, right.
but I would ask, the 59 takes into account the 7 days a week. It pulls out that weekend number, but does that give Adam any room then, if there are those special circumstances, or you don't foresee that, and the 59 plus sort of accounts for that?
Well, here's the way I was looking at it, and I'll just say it from my own, right? The total, if we read it, it's from Memorial Day through Labor Day, and it includes Memorial Day and Labor Day, which are the two holidays. So we're covered on the special days.
Yep, we're covered with the 59,000 and plus, and then by it's saying plus additional services at those rates, which covers us for the others. So that
Which,
should
to
work.
Jim's point, your cap is your annual budget.
Correct.
So we're capped on the total you can spend. Unless they add another day to a week, we're capped on the other days of the week, and we include Memorial Day and Labor Day.
Correct.
And 4th of July.
Right. And 4th of July, you're right.
I just want to make sure if they can't exceed the budgeted amount, it seems fine. I just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure they have the money they need to do the job. No
Yeah.
one. But I'm fine if everyone's fine.
We're good?
I'm good.
So
We got to
ha-
vote on the
We have the
amendment.
amendment
That we need to
motion
vote on.
and voted on, and so now we have the item as amended. Is there any comment from the public on this item? Back to the board. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Item number 10, to hear and consider and act upon the following resolution as recommended by the engineering manager. Whereas the town of Fairfield approves the acceptance of $1,940,600 local transportation capital improvement program through LASSA grants to fund project costs associated with Kings Highway's pedestrian improvements. Phase 3 project, of which 100% of said project costs are going to be paid by the state prior to construction, based on a portion of the contract bid by said grant appropriated $1,940,600 for said projects. And now therefore be it resolved that Brenda L. Kupchak, first select woman, be hereby authorized to accept and sign any agreements between the town of Fairfield and the federal government and the state of Connecticut related to additional local transportation capital improvement grant funding associated with Kings Highway pedestrian improvement projects. Motion to approve.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Very good. Bill,
Hi, good afternoon.
do you have your microphone on?
There we go, thank you.
Thanks.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is the Kings Highway pedestrian improvements, we call it Phase 3. The first two sections were already done. I'll just say near Chamber Street to, I think it was Fairchild, and then Fairchild to Villa. Those were the first two sections. And now this will take you from Villa to roughly Moody Avenue or the Bridgeport line, somewhere around there. The project includes new concrete sidewalks, curbs, medians, or maybe even road narrowing, assuming the DOT has, some of their standards or requirements. Other improvements will include pedestrian phase improvements at signalized intersection, ADA compliant ramps, turf establishment. The grant includes the construction phase, which is construction, inspection, and testing, and as I said, roughly in the $2 million range. There are several areas of the existing sidewalk that are in poor condition and should be considered and considered narrow in many places. In the near future, some of these sidewalks will have to be replaced eventually, and most of the sidewalks would need to be repaired or replaced probably in an 8 to 10 year timeline. The public and several town officials have expressed significant interest in the town expanding the project to include the third section from Villa Avenue to Bridgeport and include a southeastern section of Tungus Hill Cutoff South.
Thank you.
Yeah, the other thing was that with Lot SIP, they give you the money up front and go from there.
Right.
Sure.
And I think everybody's very familiar with this project. Been talked about for a really long time. It's nice to finally getting the money to get moving on it. Is there any questions for from the board?
I'm sorry, I'll wait and see if Nancy has any questions.
Nancy, do you? Okay, go ahead.
Bill, the question I have is, in reading the background information here and stuff, it says that this wouldn't occur until 2025.
Well, this is the commitment to fund. We do have the design approval, but we were going back and forth with the state. Finally got the, as I said, commitment to fund letter. So once that gets signed, we would start the design right away. And then design usually takes a year. So that would put us at middle of 2024. And again, depending on the season, it is possible that we could start, say, fall of 24, which would be fiscal year 25, or the spring.
And is that, and the reason I ask is because, as the first Selectwoman said, the Villa Avenue community has been concerned in this area for quite some time, right?
Yes.
So is there any way we could fast track this at all? I mean, do you have the approval? I'm trying to figure out where we are.
Yeah, no, for the design, we have the approval. This is just to authorize the first select woman commitment to fund. We have all the approvals for the grant, and I think they've given her the authority to approve any and associated paperwork. I just have to check with the town attorney to see if we need to go to the Board of Finance and RTM to, quote, approve the grant.
Right.
Okay. I would just move quickly on it, that's all. That's
Right.
why I'm asking.
Sure, no,
Okay, we've been trying, obviously, there's a ton of infrastructure projects going on in the town, and it's actually mind-numbing sometimes, but having the additional engineers in our department have made a huge difference, but still, they are a tremendous amount. And with it, anytime you're taking government grants, it takes a ton of time. It's bureaucracy to its highest level, paperwork, and so on and so forth. This isn't actually specific to the Villa Avenue issue that's happening, which is a separate issue we've been working on. This is just more of the pedestrian safety on Kings Highway, which has been an issue for a very long time.
right, yeah, it's the southern end, I guess, or western
Yeah,
end.
the ender part, the part they did in the beginning over, you remember they did all that sidewalk and all the improvements. This is just extending it down, finish it up.
Okay.
Oh, just for clarification, southern and western end of Villa Avenue. For this project, it's the east end of Kings Highway. I just want to clear that. All right.
Is there any questions from the public on this item? Seeing none? Back to the board. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
Well, you're still up, Bill. Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
To hear, consider, and adopt a bond resolution entitled, "A Resolution Appropriating 7150 for the costs associated with the inspection and construction phase of the Turney Creek Riverside Drive tide gates, authorizing the use of WPCA fund balance to reimburse $400,000 of such appropriation, and authorizing the issuance of bonds in the amount not to exceed 6750 to fund the balance of such appropriation." Do I have a motion to consider, to approve? Sorry. Thank you.
Second.
Very good. And we have Bill Hurley here, and John Bodie is here. You want to quickly go, we've talked about this tide gate. We have actually several, but this one has been an issue for a while.
That's correct. 2018, 2019, the Turney Creek at Riverside Tide Gate started having some repair issues, including a broken self-regulating tide gate, deteriorating retaining wall, and on occasion, luckily they're off the road, but there's some sinkholes that have occurred. I believe there were some photos in the backup of the condition of it. At the same time, the East Trunk Sewer line replacement was being designed, and the Riverside Drive Bridge report revealed fair to a couple of poor ratings. Rather than perform three separate projects, the town decided to construct or would like to construct all three at once, resulting in cost savings, shorter construction schedule, and a more environmental friendly design. The town hired a consultant to do the construction plans, and this is a complicated project as it involves conservation, DPW, WPCA, and then if you wanted to add engineering and the finance for any potential funding or grants. So far, we have been unable to get any grants, but we've tried for the last couple of years, but now the condition, we can't wait too much longer. But every day we're looking. The purpose of the proposal is to replace the aging infrastructure 50 to 75 years old to prevent culvert failure, settling sidewalks, sinkholes, and major flooding by replacing the existing structures. The project basically combines the three related projects into one major one. And in the interest of time, I mean, I can go further into it, but basically it's the culverts, the sanitary sewer siphon, and the tie gates. The proposed project to replace the existing bridge with 5 culverts and 5 tie gates and provide an additional sanitary sewer siphon. The culverts will be within the proposed head walls and be steel reinforced polyethylene pipe to prevent deterioration in the saltwater environment. And currently, we have all local, state, and federal permits are secure, and the design plans are 95% complete, with the exception of the bid documents. So the project is shovel-ready for a quick build.
Thank you, Bill. Open it up to the board.
Nancy, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm aware of this project. I know it's been years in the making and siphons, and nope. No questions.
Bill, or Jared, what's the balance in the WPCA fund? Because this is another $400,000 out of it.
A lot in there.
This was part of the, if you remember, Joe DiVanzo did a financial plan for the WPCA, and so this was included in there to use the cash from the WPCA fund balance in order to provide this $400,000. As of today, I don't know exactly what the balance is, but it's been around $12 to $15 million.
So, okay, but we don't, is Joe on? Do we know what the exact balance is?
I'd have to check with Caitlin.
Yeah, can we do that? And I know he was part of that financial plan, but really that wasn't a plan. It was basically a document of what we had available and what was spent. And it basically said that the fund was going to be depleted in a few years.
The plan was presented to the Board of Finance, went out 10 years. It was,
Yeah.
right, I mean, it was going to be depleted, I think, in that version was after 6 or 7 years.
Years, right.
But this was included, anticipated in that plan and also in the capital plan overall.
Commission voted on this, and it's
They
approving
did, they
it,
voted
so
in
we're-
October.
No, I understand, but we're still waiting on, do we know, I'm just asking because I know we talked about it, where's the operating audit stand? The WPCA in general, I just want to make sure because, as Jared, as you confirmed, right, when we looked at it, in year 6 or 7, though there's a quote-unquote document of needs, let's call it, right? It says in 6 or 7 years, the fund is essentially completely depleted at that point. And then we were talking about an operating audit for the WPCA. Where does all that stand right now?
So before we go there, I just want to add to this that, obviously the capital plan is going to change in future years, and this was based on some assumptions about what projects get done in terms of the financial analysis that was done. But I can say that with some conservative assumptions about revenue within the fund, everything that's being proposed for FY24, including this, and you'll see another project on here, can be funded with that revenue stream and also taken into account the operating budget and other smaller capital and non-capital items.
No, I get that. I know that. I absolutely know, because even if we were to fund the whole thing, we know that it's not a problem for like 7 years, so I get it. I'm worried about 7 years on, but I'm asking, where do we stand with the operating audit and the like? Have we gone out to bid on that yet?
Not yet, they're still, they're close, but that's going to take a while. But this project needs to get done. This is something that the WPCA said they wanted, they agreed with, This has been on the capital waterfall, and this is a project that could cause a whole lot of problems if it's not done.
Yeah, no, I get that. But they're all in, when we're talking about WPCA at this point,
Yeah.
right, because of 20 years of not doing it, they're all needed, right? And they're all important, and they all, before they get to us, get approved by the WPCA board. At least that's what we've asked for now. So now I'm just asking, what's that plan?
So it's really a question of, they're all needed, so then it's a question of timing, and I think that's part of what the audit will say. I will say timing priority. This is a priority, given the condition of it, as Bill talked about. This is definitely a high priority. I think regardless of what comes out of that audit, this is still going to be something that needs to get done immediately. We also had, one of the things that wasn't included in the financial plan was the additional revenue that they will start receiving from interest on investments based on the balance that they have, which will, won't last forever, but as we know, it's being depleted, and that the balance is being depleted, but will give additional revenue to them as well.
Am I not understanding correctly, though? Wasn't this a conservation project,
Yes.
and that today the appropriation of $400,000 is all we're talking about vis-a-vis WPCA? This was a project started under the former conservation director when Brian Carey was around.
You're right, Nancy. That's what I was just stepping up to the mic for, is that this basically constitutes, I'm going to just say roughly between like 6 and 10% of the cost of the project is WPCA. The rest of it is more of an engineering and conservation project. You're right.
You're absolutely,
So the conversation around the audit, although important and relevant, and we need to talk about it, but for the purposes of this, we're not looking at that bigger number for this project.
well,
It's coming at the next item.
right, it's still coming, right, because I read that. And it's also, so it's the same question, and it's also $400,000 out of the $11 million fund that they manage.
Right.
So it's still, in terms of financial controls and financial propriety, it's still relevant. Now, I get it. It doesn't deplete the fund. There's more to go. It's been voted on for the commission. I'm not arguing that. Okay, I just want to make sure we don't lose sight of the fact that we still need a more fulsome discussion of WPCA going forward. The administration of that plan, you're also right on the insurance, on the interest, Jared. But I just, I'm concerned we continue to, it seems like each month we keep on dipping into that fund. And we've got this marker out there in 6 or 7 years.
Right, but the whole point, though, is to do projects, and I think that the problem was that, and maybe it was because people talked about them so much that no administrations brought them forward. We have to do them. We can't be sitting in the corner worrying, oh, the fund's going to be depleted if we fix things. Yes, it's going to be depleted when you spend money to fix things, and the WPCA is going to work, and if they're going to raise their rates or whatever they're going to do to try to increase, and what we've talked about throughout
That's not my,
probably a year's worth of capital meetings about how we're all going to work to supplant some of that with bonding as we put it in our waterfall. But today, and again, I'm thinking of Pam right now, point of order, we're on one item, we're talking about this item, and
we're talking about using $400,000 worth of a fund that we basically has $11 million on it that we know is running out in 6
you
or 7 years.
don't want to do the project?
Never said that.
Okay.
What I'm saying is, what we've also talked about is putting together a plan, and I was asking where that is. That's it.
So the
Over 6 or 7
WPCA is
years.
working on their thing. We have a capital planning group that had put together a plan, and we have an operational audit that has nothing to do with this or projects. It's more about the operations of the plan. Those things are all currently,
Okay, so we know what the scope of that operational audit is? Because I haven't seen the scope document yet, so we know
it's
that it does
being worked
that.
on by a member of the WPCA and a member of our administration.
So Nancy, talk a little bit about what's going on at the WPCA then. You guys are all in favor of this project right now?
Yeah, and we do, well, as it relates to the next item, I'll tell you there is a special meeting, I believe, scheduled for tomorrow. But yes, in terms of this project.
Okay. Great, I look forward
And
to
as
seeing that.
as Brenda pointed out, it's years in the making and has to be done, so here we are.
Okay.
And it's not, we do need to have the bigger discussion, but want to reiterate that this is just, one small percentage. It's an engineering project, not a WPCA specific project.
Okay.
Is there any discussion from the public on this item? Back to the board. All in favor?
I'll vote on this one, aye.
Excuse me, there's an amendment there.
I'm sorry?
Do you have the amended resolution?
I don't.
No, I do
It's
not.
it's there, it's in the revised backup.
Where? I don't have that.
What's
I
the
have-
revision if you don't? Hello, Mr. Sastrom.
Hi, sorry for the interruption.
No, thank you.
So the revision is this, that the amount that would be bonded would be the difference between the total amount for the project minus the 400,000, because that is coming from the WPCA fund balance. And so only the balance
I got
of
it.
that amount would be bonded.
So on your bond document, instead of saying, yeah, but on the bond document, I
100,000.
think it,
Oh, okay.
There was an earlier version of it that that didn't say it was going to bond the entire amount.
yeah, so this document,
The version that you had in the original agenda would be amended to change the amount to be bonded to the $6,750,000, which is the 7,150 minus the 400.
right.
Thanks, Mr. Stafford, for reminding me about the amendment.
And that's,
Appreciate it.
that's what's in this, that's what's in this printed agenda right before me, I think, right? If I read it correctly.
It should be.
Yeah.
Yeah. The appropriation is 7,150, and the bonded amount is 6,750.
Right.
Yeah, it does say that, Mr. Stastrom, Attorney Stastrom.
It's been updated.
Right, but the backup resolution that was included with the agenda doesn't say that. We actually worked with Jared on an amended resolution this morning that I expected that you might have before you.
So there was a version of the resolution that went out on Friday, and then Pullman Comley did some cleanup to that language, and so it was reposted this morning as revised backup, and within that revised backup is the proper amount and the proper resolution.
So what I just read, is that the accurate resolution, or is it not?
What you just read from the agenda?
Correct.
Yes, that's
Okay.
that's an accurate.
Okay, we have a second we have a motion and a second on the item.
But I think because the backup was the previous resolution, I think you probably need to amend the previous resolution to include the amended resolution and then vote on it.
Go ahead.
Right.
What is the amendment then?
So the amendment would be to, I can get the exact language if you give me a minute.
Okay.
I have it, Jared, if you
You
want
have
to
it?
read it.
Yeah, that'd be helpful. We do have quite a few items, and there's a RTM budget vote tonight, so I want to make sure that we can move through these items.
Okay, the new title would be a resolution appropriating $7,150,000 for costs associated with the inspection and construction phase of the Turney Creek Riverside Drive tight gauge projects and authorizing the issuance of bonds in an amount not to exceed $6,750,000 to fund a portion of the appropriation. We then add two whereas clauses. Whereas the town of Fairfield, Connecticut seeks to appropriate $7,150,000 for the costs associated with the Turney Creek Riverside Drive Tie Gate project, the appropriation. And whereas the appropriation shall be funded by two sources, including $400,000 from the town's Water Pollution Control Authority General Fund and $6,750,000 in bonds issued by the towns, the bonds. Now, therefore, it is hereby, and then in the original paragraph 2, it would say to finance a portion of the appropriation, and the amount would be changed from $7,150 to $6,750. Those are the amendments.
Right. Okay. I mean, it says that in the agenda, but you're just clarifying the backup document.
Correct.
Very good. So can I have a motion on that amended backup information? that coincides with the item on the agenda.
So moved or seconded, whatever needs to happen.
Second.
Is there any additional discussion on this item? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Motion carries. Item number 12, to hear and consider and adopt a bond resolution entitled, "A Resolution Appropriating it's 11,000?
11 million.
11 million, I'm sorry, I can't, okay, 11 million for the costs associated with the inspection and construction phase of the East Trunk Replacement Project, authorizing a grant to reimburse $3 million for such appropriation, and authorizing the issuance of bonds in the amount not to exceed $8 million to fund the balance of such appropriation." Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Okay, I'll open it to the board, and we have Mr. Hurley, and Mr. Bodie's here as well.
Okay, this is, you're probably very familiar with this project. This is the sister project to the East Trunk Wetlands project that was just approved a while ago, and should be ready to go out to bid very, very shortly. This is the other section, which basically takes us from after the wetlands down to the post road. We received, you might remember, we received a Communities Challenge grant for this project, $3 million, approximately, I'm going to say sometime in February. And so this is the same thing, except for now this covers the non-grant portion. The East Trunk Sewer handles 2/3 of the town sewer flow to the treatment plant. The sewer was originally constructed in 1947 and follows the layout of Ash Creek. There's indications that the pipe is sagged and the joints have opened up along the section. Construction of a new sewer line will significantly reduce inflow and infiltration and sanitary sewer overflows, and provide easier maintenance access and better resiliency against Ash Creek flows and the rising sea level. The project proposes to construct a new sanitary sewer line away from Ash Creek within the public right-of-way and roadway system. The proposal, let's see here, proposal is to, yeah, I just read that, I think 2,500 new feet of 36-inch diameter sanitary sewer trunk line. And the project is expected to take 14 to 18 months, depending on the notice to proceed and if winter work can be performed. We had a breakdown of the cost estimate. Roughly, it was $900,000 for contingency, $7.9 million for construction, $850,000 for inspection, $50,000 for remediation, and $40,000 to $300,000 for updating engineering plans and dealing with utilities and any testing involved. I don't know if, Jared, you have anything to add about the financing? Thank you.
So I also need to make offer a technical amendment on this one as well. And the language that's on the agenda refers to authorizing a grant to reimburse $3 million of such appropriation. That can be stricken from there because it's already been authorized. That grant's already been authorized. So the amendment would be to a resolution appropriating $11 million for costs associated with the inspection and construction phase of the East Trunk Replacement Project, strike authorizing a grant to reimburse $3 million of such appropriation, and authorizing the issuance, and then restart, and authorizing the issuance of bonds in an amount not to exceed $8 million to fund, strike the balance, and insert a portion of such appropriation.
Madam First Selectwoman, you want to make the motion, and I'll second it?
Make a motion to include that amended language.
I'll second it.
And you have the revised version of the actual resolution itself, which reflects that as well. So in a couple of the whereas clauses, there were changes to reflect that. that the grant has already been accepted.
And I know we're discussing that amendment, but wouldn't this also need to be, or I guess I would encourage this to be subject to approval of the WPCA. There is a special meeting. I need to look and confirm. I believe it was set for tomorrow, so I'm sort of not comfortable voting on this without that.
So the WPCA has included this in their capital plan. They have not yet voted on it and have scheduled a meeting for tomorrow to vote on it. And so the approval of this would be contingent upon the approval of the WPCA tomorrow.
So I know we have a specific amendment on the floor. And with that amendment, Jared, do we have to be specific about which fund? Do we have to say the WPCA fund, or is it just fund?
Well, this is bonds, right?
I think the resolution that comes, the next resolution is going to clarify, as we did the last time we funded the other part of the East Trunk project. The WPCA presumably tomorrow will authorize a memorandum of understanding between the WPCA and the town, by which the WPCA will agree to reimburse the town for the capital costs through user fees. So I expect that's what is going to happen tomorrow. I don't think we need to amend the bond resolution other than the amendment that was just proposed, but I think you can make it clear in a minute that the project will not proceed unless the WPCA takes that action. Of course, this still has to go to the Board of Finance and the RTM, which will occur after the WPCA meeting.
And could we, I have no problem with this amendment, so I don't have any discussion on that, but I do want to, again, in terms of the overall, make it clear that for me, it would be subject to the approval of the WPCA, because I know there's much discussion to be had still by that body.
I think that's sort of clear in the process we're in, that if they don't approve it, it's not going to go forward, because part of what your approval under the next one is going to be is mandating an MOU between the WPCA and the town.
Okay.
If they don't vote to approve the MOU, then you don't go forward.
Okay, so as long as we can have that reflected in the minutes, that I want to make that clear, as you said. So I don't have any questions about the amendment.
Okay, very good.
Should we vote on the amendment? Because I do have questions about the overall resolution.
Yes, we should.
Yes. So we have the amendment out there with a second. All in favor of the amendment? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, back to the motion as amended. Go ahead, Nancy.
So pretty much three questions, and I think you covered this, Mr. Hurley, but I would love to hear it. The 11 million, does that include a new plan? Because from the plan we had approved in October, designs, because I think the last design we had from Cardinal is 2014, so I just want to make sure that is in fact covered.
Yes, I listed on the reliability cost estimate. Sorry about that. The other one you always have to hold down. Yes, the answer is yes, Nancy. There's 40 to 300,000 allotted as part of this cost estimate for updating engineering plans and the utility plans and doing some testing. So yes.
And I know there was discussion specifically raised by the vice chair, Joe DeVanzo, and one of our members. There was some discussion, Matt Manchese, talking about the connections with the new pipes and the old pipes and cost implications. I understand you had suggested that there was going to be no cost implication, but can you say that unequivocally that that's the case? Because the flip side of that is that it could be very costly to either the town or the taxpayer. So I just want to make sure we're covering that, because new pipe in front and the old pipe in back, or vice versa, perhaps, that there's no issue sort of plugging into that. And I know I'm not saying it technically.
That's okay. On the north side, there's already, as part of the plans for them to hook up. They may be able to even use the existing line and then just do a connection. I'm sorry, there's a small lateral that they'd be able to connect and then have it go into the main line. So they're covered, basically. The referring to the line to the lateral, that are property line. If they have the existing line in that same location, then they're covered. The southern part is still a little bit to be determined. We do have the two options, and we'll have to further discuss that probably when we develop the last plans, updating our last plans that we have.
Okay, so I guess, given that we have this this sort of opportunity for a check and balance discussion with the wider body tomorrow, and that there is still that contingency, I'm going to support this, but I think that cost implication is a little bit scary, given that it's kind of an unknown. But,
I can,
yeah.
Nancy, just to let you know, there is one option where the existing line remains. We weren't going to take out that line, and so anybody that's on the south side could still use that. We would probably have to seal it up a little bit better, obviously, but instead of having 33 inches of flow going into it, it will have the equivalent of like 8 inches of flow, if not even. So that is another option that we even have as well.
Again, there are people, excuse me, who understand the tech specs of this and the implications. So I'll be interested in the discussion at the WPCA table, and as long as there is that mechanism in place, that check and balance in place, I'm happy to approve it today with that contingency understanding.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, two questions. First of all, why is this before us before going before the WPCA? What's going on with the process here?
Actually, I think it's just one of those things where they, didn't realize they didn't vote on it. They wanted the project to come up, and so they called special meeting.
Being at that meeting, they did approve a lot of the smaller items that Nancy was alluding to before, in terms of investigation. I think we're done with our soil testing, but there were a couple other minor components that were already, approved by them. It was the actual figure of what they were going to do, and so we honestly thought they had approved it, but I guess upon further investigation, they only talked about it and they didn't formally approve it. So they're going to have that special meeting tomorrow. Yeah.
Meeting, and of course, as we said earlier, some strange region, which I don't think they will, don't vote to approve it. It won't move forward anyway, so.
Yeah, no, I'm not.
The problem's not going to go away.
I'm not concerned about it moving forward. I also understand the implications of how important it is. I guess what I'm trying to reconcile is, Bill, your explanation is essentially, hey, they discussed it, they're good with it, they forgot to vote on this one thing, we didn't even realize it. Nancy's recollection sounds, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, Nancy, but it sounds as though there's a more robust discussion that needs to happen. So it doesn't sound like, from what you're saying, this is a fait accompli, or else they forgot to vote on it. It sounds like there's real questions.
I think my understanding is, yes, that's correct, which is why it's important for me to have that sort of contingency. Because again, Bill, Mr. Hurley, you just brought up two words we all don't love in the town of Fairfield, but soil testing, and it's, an old industrial area. So, what are the cost implications there? And I think that these are the questions we have to ask around the table tomorrow. I think confirming that the design plan is in this number, this 11 million, but also why was one backup, 10 million? What accounts for that additional 1 million increase from 10 to 11? So these are just some of the things that we need to have around the table. So I don't think it's a fait accompli. I think it's a real discussion.
Yeah, I'm not gonna disagree. And it was a little bit more than just a laissez-faire. They had originally, way back when, they looked at, oh, is it a cheaper way of doing directional drilling? They even hired another consultant to see if the price, was reasonable or out of whack. So they had done all those things, and because the price had gone up, there's obviously questions, and so. It was, as I said, our understanding is that the project had to be done, and Nancy's right, though, they still have to button up.
What should the price gone up?
From what year that you're talking about? See,
Last one.
the last one, I believe the last one we had was 8.5 to 9 something, 9 million.
Why did it go up?
Again, we've included a contingency, and then just in general, the prices are starting to at least level off, but obviously the prices pre-COVID to now they've gone up significantly, and that's all I can say on that, really.
Is your meeting going to be open to the public? I mean, is it going to be on WebEx or?
That I don't know. I'll have to ask. I have not seen the follow-up documentation.
Is it?
I can try to find that out while we're
Maybe Selectman Flynn can join it tomorrow night, jump on and learn a bit more about it. Listen to the discussion of the committee.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, and the other thing, if again, going back to when I was mentioning the costs, $850,000 was also for the inspection. Which may or may not, I'll have to check my records to see if that was part of the construction. I think the original construction they had figured was, if I recall, it was, I think it was like $500,000. So that was another reason, another $300,000 went up. And that's all based on the timing. The original, they thought was going to be, I think, 14 months. But again, when we're going for these things, we say 14 to 18 months. So we've included the 18 months in it.
So this is a very complex project, right?
Yes, yeah.
A lot of unknowns because it hasn't been opened up in like 50, 60 years.
Yes, but they have done 2 rounds of testing at least.
Okay.
And when I said testing before, just for clarification even on that, is there is a sub-consultant that has to, as part of the bid documents, has to come up with a engineered plan on that, any of the soils that are questionable, we'll just call it that way.
So, question for you. Mm-hmm. And you ran through it pretty quickly in your discussion at the top. Your contingency on this is what, $500,000?
No, $900,000.
900. So less than 10%, 7.5%.
Somewhere in there, yeah.
So when we looked at the air conditioning earlier, I think the contingency was like 10%. With something this complex, should there be more contingency?
There could be. I mean, I think the 900,000 was when it was 9 million. So my understanding is that the total request is for 11 million. So yeah, if you wanted to throw in 200,000 more in contingency, that would be the case. If you wanted to do the 10%.
Well, if I wanted to do it, are you asking for it? Do you think you guys are construction managing it? Should it be? Do you need a 10% contingency given everything? And I heard Nancy talk about, I'm not close enough to it.
Yeah.
So I'm asking, is a 7.5%, 8% contingency enough, or should it be 10%? And I thoroughly agree that, I don't want the Water Pollution Control Authority to think if we grant this to move forward that we're pushing this forward. If they come back tomorrow night and say, we have these very real concerns, I think it should stop there and get retooled appropriately, is the way I would look at this.
So we could potentially just move forward with this item, and if tomorrow night, Nancy, the commission wants to ask for additional contingency, we could always put it in our next, on our next meeting agenda.
Or we could,
I would encourage you to attend it too, Tom. It seems like you have a lot of good questions for them and an interest in how they're going to be talking about it.
mm-hmm. Do we need the extra 200, Bill?
Well, to be consistent with town policy, you know, you could have it in there. I mean, the only other thing would be is when we update the plans, we get a final cost estimate and see if it's, you know, gone any higher. But like I said, I think the prices at least have stabilized. For right now, I'm fine with the 900,000. But
Yeah, I say we leave it
Yeah.
there, and if there's a need, we can always come back. We meet twice a month, and there's no reason why we wouldn't be able to add to it if so needed. So I really want to bring this back because we have other things on the agenda.
Yeah, could I just make the final point to support that, which is, given that there are going to be so many questions about, you know, the connectivity and are we accounting for the right costs and whatnot, I would say my choice would be to leave it as is, have the discussion tomorrow, and then if we have to go back and change it, change it.
Okay, so I'd like to move forward now with this item. We've talked about it. Is there any discussion from the public? Back to the board. All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries.
thank you.
Thank you.
It's complicated, thank you.
Item number 13. It's a long, Nancy, do you want to make a motion?
Sure. I'm going to make a motion to waive the reading on the resolution, or item number 13.
Thank you. I second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
So this basically, we have Jared and John Boat, Jared's right there, and Bill Hurley's run from the room. I don't blame him. This is regarding Water Pollution Control Authority again. This is the resolution. This is just the resolution.
Yeah, this is memorializing what we talked about when the project was presented, that the bonding and the debt service relating to the bonding of this would be paid for out of the WPCA budget. And so there would have to be a memorandum of understanding between the town and the WPCA to reflect that, because the bonds are technically town, backed by the town itself.
Yep.
And so again, this just reiterates Mr. Staffstrom's point that if they don't approve it, if the WPCA doesn't approve it, it becomes null and void anyway. So I have no other questions.
Thank you.
That's correct. I would just point out there's also one amendment in this. If you look at the 1, 2, 3, fourth whereas clause, it says authorizes the bounds an amount not to exceed 11 million. That should be 8 million. So you do need to amend that.
In the
So I'll
fourth?
make that motion to change from 11 million to 8 million.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, the motion as amended, which just is memorializing the item prior. Is there any additional discussion? Any discussion from the public? All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Attorney Stafford.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, thank you. Our next item is item number 14. This is, as we discussed before, this is the approval of the contracts for the Penfield Pavilion project that we talked about at our last meeting 2 weeks ago. And I am going to, well, do you want to waive, does someone want to make a motion to waive the reading of all this?
Are we taking them as separate items, or is it going to be as one?
I mean, they are listed under, to consider an update on the Penfield project. I want to do the contracts first and then do the Penfield update after. But, it's up to you. I mean, we can do them each. So, okay, a motion to.
I'll make a motion to waive the reading, but would also, as part of the motion,
Discuss
like to
each
vote on that
separately. Yep.
separately.
Okay, so the first one is regarding the construction manager contract with Bismarck for pre-construction services related to alterations at Penfield Pavilion, and the RFP number listed in the agenda, and the amount not to exceed $74,019, funding for it will be available, and the account number is also listed. Motion to approve?
So moved.
And we have Adam on, and we have Mr. Bremer. Adam, is there anything unusual or different from this than any of our other contracts that we go work with?
No, I would definitely refer to Tom on this, but I have, most of these predate my time here, but I have gone back and reviewed each of the RFQs and RFPs that are mentioned in these next few items, and everything looked, normal process and standard contracts.
So
And I should also add that Jim Baldwin the town attorney, has reviewed all the contracts.
Yes,
okay.
as always.
So, can I ask a question?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, in theory, I don't have a problem given the project, this is consistent with what was presented all along. Where are we with the insurance?
We're still working on getting the insurance. Since we are not scheduling any construction for a few more months, we have time, but we're still working on that. I'm very optimistic. And of course, as I've said in the past, we're not going to move forward with construction if we don't have insurance, but I'm comfortable and I'm very confident that we will be able to get insurance.
And we could discuss
Yeah.
additional Penfield update items. I'd like to just focus on each of the contracts, and then any conversations regarding the Penfield, we can talk during the update.
Well, it is only because that is relevant to me, not because I understand with design services, no issue, and, the architectural plans and the drawings, but in terms of the remediation with number 4, are you concerned, is that something where we would need to have some assurances in place, or it doesn't impact that?
No, no, it doesn't impact remediation at all.
All right, so I would just love to make, for the record, make note that I had asked about insurance, and I'm approving this contingent. I have no problem approving all 4, contingent on the fact that, we've been insured that it doesn't, at this point, it's okay to proceed without it, and that there's no implication.
Right, these are just, these are allowing me to enter into these contracts. So obviously, some of these are, remediation of soil, and then the other items are construction related, but we obviously wouldn't be able to move forward with contracts without insurance, so. So on this one specifically, is there any questions on this one specifically?
No, I don't have questions on any of them. That was really my overarching question for each of them.
Okay, got it.
Tom, can you step us through each of these contracts, what you're expecting each of these people to do, please?
Sure. First, as a construction manager, I refer to him as like the conductor of the orchestra. He's going to be making sure that not only his subcontractors are working, but one of the things, because the construction and the remediation is so intertwined, he needs to conduct, if you will, the 2 different phases. And so that's primarily what his job is going to be.
So is this phase 1 or phase 2, or both? I'm sorry, is it phase 1 or is it both? You just said he's got to do both phases.
Well, both phases. I look at it like this. The remediation is a phase and construction is a phase.
Right.
But
Is his fee here cover both phases?
well, his fee this is just the pre-construction. This is
That's
before
what I thought.
construction begins.
Right.
Once construction begins, we have to have a new contract with him.
Right, that's what I
And
thought.
that we can't talk about right now because he still has to do bids with subcontractors and all that stuff. Once all those bids come in, then we'll have a much better sense of where his real costs are going to be.
So it'll put it on top of that.
Yes,
Got it.
exactly. And so that's why his number's so low right now, because this is really the pre-construction. The architect,
How did you pick them, by the way?
we went to RFQ. We basically went out, I can't remember how many months ago, 8 months
Were they
ago.
the cheapest, or were they?
I think, are we talking about construction manager?
Yeah.
I think he probably was the cheapest, or he was very close to the cheapest.
Work with them before?
I have not personally worked with Bismarck. He is doing, right now, he's doing construction over in the fire department.
Okay.
He is he's the company that's doing the Bassick $100 million high school in Bridgeport. So he's been in business for 40 years, blah, blah, blah. But I have not worked with him in the past. I mean, for the town. Architect Joe Seapot, local. Again, we basically did an RFQ. We had 4 or 5 different people come in. We interviewed them all, and he seemed to be the most acceptable to us. Now, that number is substantially larger because, frankly, most of his work, certainly not all, but most of his work is going to be done now. It's going to be up front. He's got to do the design drawings and all that kind of stuff. Once we have all the plans, that's really what we're waiting on before we can send out for the bids, because we need all the plans done, et cetera, et cetera. Coastal engineering and flood impact race engineering, that $32,000 is, as we talked about in the past, that's really the wave analysis and the scour analysis that's required before the architect can put all his designs together and that sort of thing. What you've also noted is Weston and Sampson remediation. That $227,000, that's really for them to file all the documents and get approvals. It's really the oversight, but it has nothing to do with the actual digging out the dirt and transporting it away. He's going through the same subcontractor list, the same subcontractor tasks that the construction manager will do. He'll be doing on his phase, if you will, on the remediation. And it's only after all those subs come in with their quotes that we'll have a much better sense of what the overall cost is going to be. So that's a quick review of the first round of contracts. In my mind, this is the first round. The second round is going to be when all the bids come in and all that stuff.
So where are we, I agree with you and I understand.
Okay.
Where are we financially when you look at these as compared to where you thought we would be at this stage?
Well, right now, I think these numbers are really good. I have to say, I was pleasantly surprised with Weston and Sampson. Their number is, to my mind, very, very reasonable relative to the kind of numbers we were seeing on the other sites and that kind of thing. But right now, I think we're on schedule, as far as I can tell.
I know it's early, I just didn't know
very
whether there
early.
were any
It's very
uppers in here.
No, it's very early in terms of the original first round of contracts.
And can I ask one more follow-up question? All that sounds fine. I just want to make sure with this number 3 item, the race, the study, just again to reiterate that this is only one small part of what is going to be done in the bigger term, in the longer term, and that this in no way sort of is going to take the place of a broader study, which will flesh out some of the bigger implications. Correct?
Yes, that's correct. I think I've said this before. The 32,000 we're talking about here is all part of this responding to the NOV. It really, the 100,000 that has been talked about previously for race, that's separate and apart from this 32,000. And so, as you'll see in one of the documents that I've included, that we're really peeling that 100,000 off of the Penfield, and that's going to be a separate resiliency project in and of itself.
And the only thing I would say in return is something I've reiterated in the past is anything that the Flood and Erosion Control Board might be able to offer in terms of not taking away from your ability to just focus on what addressing NOV, but if there's things that can be included that will be helpful to the bigger picture study, then I would hope you would consider that.
Of course we will.
Thank you.
Okay.
I don't have anything else. I'm happy to support all 4.
Okay,
Thank you, Tom.
Sure.
very good. All right, so we're going to do one each differently, separately. So we have a motion and a second on this first one. Is there any comment from the public? You want to come up to the mic so they can hear you? That's how they work it here with the FairTV thing.
Is the Bismarck contract a CM or a CMR contract? CMR is construction manager at risk. They hold the contracts, or are you holding the contracts, the town?
CMR.
So it's a CMR? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any additional comments from the public? Seeing none, back to this item. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Motion carries. The second one is regarding, as Tom was just talking about earlier, Joe Seapot Architects, architectural services related to the alterations at Penfield in the amount not to exceed $245,200, funding for this contract, and then the item number is listed on the, in the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Second, okay.
I'll second, yeah, I'll second it.
Is there any additional comments on this item from the board? Seeing none, is there any comments from the public on this item? Seeing none, back to the board. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Motion carries. The next item, can I get a motion to hear and consider and authorize the purchase to go with Race Coastal Engineering, flood impact analysis related to the altercations to Penfield Pavilion, and the RFP number is listed, and the amount not to exceed $32,303, and the account number is listed for the contract in the agenda. Motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Yeah, so moved.
Is there any questions on this item from the board? Is there any questions from the public? Back to the board. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. The next item, can I have a motion to hear and consider authorizing the purchase authority to enter into a contract with Weston Sampson for the remediation and consulting services not to exceed $227,000, and the contract number is located on the agenda. Motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion from the board on this item? Any discussion from the public? Back to the board, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you, motion carries. And do you want to provide, I mean, you did kind of provide an update on the.
Yeah, I'll just do a very quick,
Not anywhere right now, with just the contract stuff.
yeah, I'd just like to do a very quick update. I know I appeared before you 2 weeks ago. Not much has happened in the 2 weeks, but I did send 2 additional documents that I thought it might be helpful. In response to your, Mr. Flynn's request about adding a financial person to the group, I added Caitlin Bossy. She has been drafted into the group, and so she's going to help us in terms of managing the financial aspects of the project. As far as document 1, I had her and I kind of put together a very skeletal, it is skeletal right now in terms of the finance, because we haven't spent any money, we're not really doing anything as of yet in terms of the project. But the one sheet is basically, has focused me on, and I've focused with her on, really two numbers that I say are the paramount numbers. The 2 numbers we're worried about is A, obviously the overall budget number, which we've got as 11.5. As I said earlier, I peeled off the $100,000 as a separate project, if you will, for resiliency. But the 11.5 is the number that's been approved, and that is the overall budget number, and that's obviously paramount to everybody that's working on the project. Then the second number that we're very concerned about is the 50/50 rule number. And I'm pegging that, although the actual number is slightly in excess of $3.5 million, I'm trying to peg it to $3 million. And that's what we're going to focus on and try to stay right around $3 million on that number. We are setting that up with as a financial reporting mechanism, We're setting that up with Bismarck so that they are very focused on that number as well. And so we'll be having receipts and bills and everything else tied to that number coming in, and we're going to monitor that obviously on a monthly, if not weekly basis. So this gives you kind of a sense of what we're going to be focusing on. We're focusing on costs, and we're focusing on those two numbers. The list that I have is going to change from time to time. I wanted to put something together to give you a sense of what we're going to be looking at in terms of numbers and financials. But obviously, as the work begins in September, these will all be fleshed out, and we'll start doing this on a monthly basis.
You're going to present it to this board on a monthly basis?
Yeah, on a monthly basis. Like, here's where we are, this is what we've spent, this is where we're going. So that's the plan. The second document I'd like you to focus on is, it's a Bismarck document. It's entitled, it's the Town of Fairfield, and it basically gives you a project schedule. It was designed in March this year, and we're still on schedule. And this gives you an idea of when things will start, when things will be done. And I'm going to follow this like the Bible, and if it changes, as it inevitably will, of course, I will update this board as to changes, et cetera, as we begin to go through things. But you can see, before September, there's going to be a number of things that have to be done, and most of them are all paperwork, et cetera, et cetera. But we will be doing it, and I will be giving you updates every month to say, are we on schedule, are we behind schedule, that sort of thing. So that's really it.
And the goal is July 1st next year.
The goal is, in my mind, my first goal is to start work in September.
Mm-hmm.
And once we're into it, I'll have a much better sense of whether July is doable or not.
And obviously the weather and all that.
Yep. I got to see how much mediation is really required.
Yep.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bremer.
Thank you.
Okay, I just want to quickly just remind the board and public that tonight the RTM will cast their final vote on the town budget. And this Thursday, the Board of Finance will vote to set the mill rate. And the budget season will come to a close. Just a reminder that the town is accepting applications for the town and state senior and disabled homeowners tax relief program up until May 15th. So anyone with questions can contact our tax assessor's office at 256-3110 or at assessor@fairfieldct.org. And in my newsletter on Friday, I included many upcoming events, including the Holocaust commemoration on May 3rd, which I hope members of our community will join me at, and the board as well. And then there is a free mattress recycling collection event on May 6th and a free movie night at Dugliello Field. As always, residents can find the bi-monthly town update posted on the town's homepage at www.fairfieldct.org.
Madam First Selectwoman, I think you skipped number 50. Because I'm assuming that was your other business.
Oh, the tax collector. I apologize.
No big deal.
Can I get a motion to consider an act upon the tax refunds as recommended by the tax collector
So
in the
moved.
amount of $19,487.14?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Any discussion from the board?
No, I'm good.
Any discussion from the public? Back to the board. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Aye.
Thanks, everybody.